indicate my opposition to this bill on behalf of the Greens. The bill before us today is yet another example of the Malinauskas government politicising the so-called youth crime epidemic, an epidemic that we know has been confected by the media. This bill seeks to treat children like adults by removing the presumption against bail for serious repeat offending. While the government offers a special circumstances threshold, it will be a high bar to reach, resulting in more kids being locked up. This is a costly and ineffective approach to crime prevention. They have yet again been tone deaf to the many voices on this issue. There were numerous submissions that were made in opposition to this bill, Mr President, including from the Law Society of South Australia, SACOS, the Aboriginal Legal Rights Movement, the Youth Affairs Council of South Australia, the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Legal Services, the Guardian for Children, and many other community sector organisations. Indeed, data released by the Attorney-General's own department this year has revealed that South Australia has the second lowest rate of youth offenders across Australia after the ACT. The Attorney-General's department states on its own website that over the past financial year, just 20 young people were responsible for roughly 11% of all matters before the youth court and for a disproportionate rate of offending. Yet Excuse me, Mr President. Yet again, there is a disconnect between the evidence and these proposed laws, which will remove the presumption of bail for young people. If enacted, this will set many more kids down the path of adult offending without addressing the underlying causes that could help prevent a child or a young person who has been in the youth justice system from becoming a serious repeat offender. And this is the fundamental problem with Labor's approach to this issue. Over many, many years now. You know, I started my working life, Mr President, working in the youth affairs sector, YACSA. And one of the issues that we were dealing with at that time was the then Rann government's approach to youth crime. Well, fast forward nearly 20 years, and the spokesperson has changed. You know, the Premier, might I say, looks a lot better in a pair of bathers than Mike Rann ever did. But the politics are equally as toxic when it comes to this issue. So the spokesperson's changed, but it is the same disappointing, populist, rack 'em, pack 'em and stack 'em approach from the Labor government. Rather than them actually getting serious about the causes of crime, having a serious conversation about what leads these young people into offending. Why aren't we talking about the causes of this criminality? Social exclusion, disadvantage, economic inequality, lack of affordable housing, lack of affordable food, poor employment opportunities. But no, instead, we have this ridiculous populist politics that is being aided and abetted by the opposition. And I share the concerns of the Honourable Connie Benares about the ludicrous break bail, go to jail. What a fail. I mean, that is really a ridiculous policy proposition. It does nothing to advance the nature of the political debate here in our state. Instead, it just drags us further down into this race to the bottom that is not based on any evidence at all. So shame on the Malinauskas government for following the Liberal Party down in the ditch in their approach to this issue. I'd like to quote from the submission provided by SACOS in their submission to the Attorney-General dated August 2025. SACOS has repeatedly identified that offending behaviour by young people, I'm quoting from the submission, is not typically caused by a weak approach to law and order, but rather the failure of our youth justice, child protection and social service systems to properly address the fundamental drivers of social challenges, including household and youth poverty, housing insecurity, domestic, family and sexual violence, the impacts of alcohol and drug use, irregular engagement in education, lack of attention to disability, neurodevelopment conditions, mental health challenges, unemployment, cost of living pressures, alienation and lack of belonging, and limited social and recreational activities for young people to engage in. The causes of offending behaviour must be given proper attention, and the children and young people should not be targeted, labelled recidivists, apprehended or treated under the proposed provisions of this bill. Well, I entirely agree, Mr President. Where is the serious attention on those issues from the Malinauskas government? I am bitterly disappointed that despite the fact that I introduced my private member's bill to raise the age of criminal responsibility in line with the recommendations of the United Nations, that bill has languished on the notice paper here in this parliament, and the Labor government has lacked the political will to do anything serious in this regard. There was a discussion paper with a series of submissions that were kept under lock and key, and this seems to have just gone into the never never. It's bitterly disappointing. And instead of moving us down that path, what we have from Labor is this draconian law and order policy, which is going to do nothing to improve the lives of vulnerable young people in our community. It's based on false evidence and false assumptions, because we know we are not facing a youth crime crisis. And I really urge the government to think again. This isn't about being soft on crime. To the contrary, it's about actually advancing policies that would work. And that means an evidence-based approach to law and order and something that actually addresses the causes of crime. So the Greens can't support a bill that puts kids on a path that they cannot get out of. And of course we know that once young people move into the criminal justice system, it's very, very difficult to get them out. So I really urge the government to think again and to stop listening to the bleating opposition and their populist law and order drum, but actually to start to engage with people that work with young people and understand the needs of that sector. Evidence-based policy is what will work, not the sort of populist fear-mongering we see from the Liberal Party.